The White Star Line billed the Titanic as unsinkable months before the ship ever embarked on her maiden voyage. Her construction was reputed to have been the best of the best. So why did she sink? And did the ship's construction have anything to do with the tragedy? It has been almost 100 years since the Titanic sank. Hurrah! During that time, a number of myths and legends have grown up around the sinkery of the now infamous ship. The Titanic's launch was delayed by 6 weeks because her sister ship Olympic needed repairs.
The length of the Titanic, 882 feet and 9 inches.
Yeah, I would have to say that is 882 feet and 9 inches.
825 tons of coal used per day. About 10,000 lamp bulbs were used on the ship. The cost of the RMS Titanic was $7,500,000.
Yep.
2 workers were killed during the ship build.
R.I.P.
It took 20 horses to transport the main anchor onto the ship.
Pull!
The max number of people Titanic could carry was 3,547.
There you go.
There were 2,223 people aboard. The ship. There were 13 honeymoon couples on voyage.
So yeah, basically there were only 13 of the little couples that were in love on the voyage.
There were 14,000 gallons of drinking water used every 24 hours. There were 40,000 fresh eggs on the ship. There were 1,000 bottles of wine taken aboard. The Titanic was equipped to carry 64 lifeboats.
Yeah, 64
But the Titanic only carried 20.
I wonder why.
The Titanic was the world's largest passenger ship when it entered service.
It's so big.
The Titanic is the only ocean liner to ever be sunk by an iceberg. The budget for the movie Titanic was higher than the Titanic itself.
Well, I mean, I'd rather watch a movie than be on the ship and die, even though I already died.
Titanic's 4th funnel was fake. It was added to make the ship look more powerful and symmetrical.
The Titanic's lookout was not equipped with binoculars to see icebergs in time to avoid the collision.
I can't see.
First Officer William Murdoch attempted to turn the ship to swing it past the berg. From the lookout's first sighting of the berg until they hit it took only about 37 seconds.
I see the berg. 37 seconds.
Passengers had different descriptions of how the collision felt.
It felt like a slight tremor. I thought it felt like it passed over 1,000 marbles.
If only 4 of the Titanic's watertight compartments had been breached, it would have stayed afloat. The iceberg sliced through 6 of the compartments. If the ship had hit the iceberg head-on, the Titanic probably would have survived because of the strength of its bulkheads.
We good.
The iceberg was warmer than the water that the passengers fell into that night.
The water is pretty cold, and this is warmer than that.
Ocean waters were 28 degrees below the freezing point, but it was not frozen because of the water's salt content.
It's very, very salty. So, yeah, it's not freezing, but oh boy, it's cold.
The berg was about 100 feet tall.
Wow, yeah, I'd say that's about 100 feet.
The Titanic's crew failed to fire correct distress signals after hitting the iceberg. Random rockets were fired, but according to the British inquiry into the wreck, the message sent by the rocket's pattern never signaled distress. Instead, the incorrect rocket pattern signaled to only ships in the area the message, I'm having navigation problems, please stay clear.
No, you should have seen him in space.
They're having navigation problems. Please stay clear.
The Titanic held no passenger lifeboat drills during its voyage.
Well, since I want my passengers to die, I'm just not going to have any lifeboat drills.
I mean, it's just played for 2 hours and 5 minutes as the ship sunk. All 8 members of the Titanic band died during the sinking. The ship broke in 2 in its final moments. The Titanic went under the waves at 2:20 p.m. April 15th, about 400 miles off the Grand Banks of Newfoundland.
After hitting the iceberg, it took 2 hours and 40 minutes to sink.
2 hours later.
Tennis players Dick Williams and Carl Barrett survived and eventually become tennis teammates on the U.S. Davis Cup team.
Thank God we lived. Yeah. The Titanic's chief, Baker, fortified himself with alcohol and thus survived the freezing water for 2 hours until he was rescued. See what alcohol can do? It's a lifesaver.
Jacob Astor IV was an American businessman, builder, and investor. He was the son of the first multimillionaire in the U.S., German-American John Jacob Astor. He was the richest person aboard the Titanic and was with his second wife, Madeline, who was 5 months pregnant. He did not survive, and his body was recovered on April 22nd and was identified by the initials sewn into his label of his jacket. His wife survived.
Whatever.
Benjamin Guggenheim, an American businessman who was aboard the Titanic with a mistress, a French singer by the name of Madame Leontine Aubert. Their bodies were never recovered. Isidore and Ida Strauss. Isidore Strauss was a German Jewish American and was co-owner of Macy's department store in New York, along with his brother Nathan. Aboard the Titanic was with his wife. Ida refused to leave her husband while the ship was sinking. Isidore was told that he would be able to board the lifeboat with his wife, but refused and instead sent his wife's maid, Ellen Berganto, on the boat instead. Isidore's body was recovered, but his wife's body was never recovered.
Captain Edward John Smith, a British Naval Reserve officer and the captain of the RMS Titanic. The events connected with the sinking of the Titanic are clouded. Some believe that more immediate and drastic action by Captain John Smith could have averted the disaster, while some believe the collision with the iceberg was inevitable. It is also unclear as to what his actions were during the sinking of the ship. Smith died during the sinking of the Titanic, and his body was never recovered. Thomas Andrews was an Irish businessman, managing director, and head of the draughting department for Harland and Wolff in Belfast, Ireland. Andrew was a naval architect and the person in charge of the plans for the RMS Titanic. According to survivor accounts, Andrews was permitted to board a lifeboat, but instead helped women and children board and sealing his own fate. Body was never found. All right, so in memory of who died on the boat, Mr. Anthony Abbing, age 42, rest in peace. Mr. Eugene Joseph Abbott, age 14, rest in peace. Mr. John Adams, age 26, RIP. Mr. Ahmed Ali, age 24, RIP. Mr. John D. Bauman, age 60. Mr. Alexander Taylor Jr. Compton, age 37. Miss Kate Connolly, age 41. Mr. Jacob Cook, age 43. Mr. Ludovic Cove, age 19. Mr. Gilbert Sigvard Emmanuel Danbaum, age 4 months. People who survived. Mrs. Leah Axe, age 18. Miss Elizabeth Walton Allen, age 29. Miss Cornelia Theodosia Andrews, age 62. Mrs. Marianne Asaf, age 45. Miss Benora Ayub Daher, age 15. Mrs. Caroline Lane Brown, age 59. And Miss Lillian W. Bentham, age 19.